listening to the lies of your mind. By listening to the lies of your mind. By listening to the lies of your mind. To hide the truth.
So for the people who actually believe in the tablet, the one striking characteristic about these tablets that can't be denied is the use of what they call the mystic symbol. So the mystic symbol you'll see are these three characters that somewhat resemble the IHS from the Catholic Church. So the proponents of these tablets believe that these tablets could not have been faked because several thousand other tablets and artifacts have been found in that area with this mystic symbol. Apparently, there are thousands of legit artifacts with this mystic symbol upon them. So although there is evidence that this mystic symbol that's found all over these Michigan tablets has been found in other locations, it appears that every last one of these is a hoax and a forgery. So many people who push back on this, they'll say, well, I understand some of these do look kind of fake, but how are they all fake? Did someone fake 10,000 tablets and hide them all over the state for different people to find? A little controversy behind these tablets because tablets of a similar design and similar order have been found all over the state. So anytime one of these black tablets shows up that may have some sort of biblical story being told or some sort of ancient script on them, they are immediately labeled a hoax. Are they all hoaxes? Charlatans Web continuing. The finds attracted the interest of some members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS Church. In 1909, Mormon scientist James E. Talmage participated in a dig and thoroughly tested the artifacts in his lab back in Utah. His investigations led him to label the artifacts as frauds. In August 1911, he published a work on his findings entitled The Michigan Relics, A Story of Forgery and Deception. Rudolf Etzenhauser, the man who published the book, who was a traveling elder of the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, saw the relics as proof of the historicity of the Book of Mormon. Etzenhauser even published a book on his collection of the Michigan relics. After James Savage died in 1927, he bequeathed his collection of relics to the University of Notre Dame. While at Notre Dame, the relics sat dormant until the 1960s when Milton R. Hunter, president of the New World Archaeological Foundation, uncovered the relics. Hunter spent the rest of his life attempting to use the relics to prove the historicity of the Book of Mormon. Hunter connected the relics to the Michigan mound builders, which he deemed to be the Nephites from the Book of Mormon. Hunter's rhetoric and work with the Michigan relics perpetuated pseudo-archaeology in the region with efforts to prove pre-Columbian contact and the myth of the mound builders. Notre Dame gave Hunter the collection in the 1960s. Before his death in 1975, he deeded the collection to the LDS Church. So Notre Dame just gave the collection to him? Because he was the president of the New World Archaeological Foundation. Hey, okay, we're just going to give it to you. All right. Following Hunter's death, the church kept the collection in their museum in Salt Lake City, Utah for decades. In 2001, the church had the relics examined by professor of anthropology Richard B. Stamps of Oakland University and found that the artifacts were made with contemporary tools. The LDS Church kept 797 of the objects in their Salt Lake City Museum. In 2003, they gave them to the Michigan History Museum in Lansing, where they currently reside. The museum developed an exhibition surrounding the objects called Digging Up Controversy, the Michigan Relics, which was on display in the fall and winter of 2003. End quote, Charlatan's Web. Two of the main issues concerning these tablets are, one, the people who were funding the digs, and apparently the history of the people who were claimed to have found these artifacts. If a person who is found guilty of a person who is rumored to have embezzled money finds an artifact, there's a chance that that artifact may be fake. I don't think that's a stretch for anyone to come to that conclusion. But when the methodically shackled archaeologist sees these artifacts of a common theme, he must first mind his scientific process. And therein lies the problem with archaeology, or with the charlatan sciences in general. It is as dogmatic as any religion. And in fact, science itself is its own religion. And speaking of religion, could this primitive birdman image have any religious significance? The scientific charlatan will look at this and say, well, these people carved sandstone. They'll look at this and say, well, these people carved shells. They'll look at this and say, these people made copper plates. And the uneducated dummy will say, these people loved that bird nigger. And the archaeologist will reply, well, I'm not sure if that's a bird or a nigger, but that is definitely copper. It's clear that this birdman was a venerated image at one ancient time in pre-Columbian America, because its symbology is found in several locations on the continent. But according to the experts, this birdman is not connected to any other cultures from the ancient world. The contradiction between the Indian and the savage, and the Indian as noble first American, has been historically mediated by this notion that Native Americans were vanishing or had vanished. The concept of the vanishing American disarticulated Native Americans from their past. Of course it did, providing a vehicle by which whites took over Native American heritages for nationalistic and scientific purposes. Providing a vehicle by which whites took over Native American heritages for nationalistic and scientific purposes. Think about the first families of Virginia. Think about all of these people who say they have Indian blood or they're related to the great Indian chief, and they're essentially white people. So was the Indian chief. This was the process by which they claimed their Indian identities. And much of it included intermarriage or taking over lands. Archaeologists lifted dead Indians from their graves in part to help create a national heritage and the myth of the vanishing Americans. Archaeologists rarely situate their practice in this larger history and therefore frequently fail to understand how the Native American past became their object of study and why many Native Americans are resentful of that fact. This supposed resentment is based in the idea that these Native American groups are genetically related to the people who are being interred by the archaeologists. And where is this resentment that they speak of founded? The idea that interring graves for the purposes of science and or to learn more about history could also be a reason why you would want, if these are your people, you would want the archaeologist to possibly know more. And this is assuming that that group is genetically related to the people who once inhabited that area that they're assuming this identity and gatekeeping for, so to speak. An understanding of linkage between the development of U.S. Indian policy and the development of U.S. archaeology is a starting point for a dialogue on how to recreate archaeology to reconcile our scientific interests and the interests of modern Native Americans, end quote. This is a perspective on the philosophy that goes on behind the scenes when new discoveries are made in certain areas. This image is from the Georgia Historical Society via the Etowah Papers. Look at this nigga right here. Figure 68. This stone image of a human being probably intended to serve as an idol was found by Professor Warren K. Moorhead in a mound of the Great Etowah Group on Etowah River, Cartersville, Georgia. The image, which is the size of a 5-year-old boy, was buried in a stone grave, exactly as though it were the burial of a human being. Look at this. Found in Georgia. That don't look like anything anywhere else. They are lying to you.